China's foreign ministry says it is willing to work responsibly with all parties to ease tensions on the Korean Peninsula. It comes after the US and Canada proposed a foreign ministers meeting to discuss the DPRK nuclear issue.
China welcomes any efforts that helps resume conversation and promote a political and diplomatic solution to the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue. The situation is complicated and sensitive. Returning to a Cold War attitude of pressure or confrontation is of no use in easing tensions or maintaining stability. We think all the parties involved should stay calm, exercise restraint, and implement UN Security Council resolutions. Negotiations, actions, or responses by the UN Security Council should be conducive to the unity and cooperation of the Security Council, to denuclearization and stability on the peninsula, and should be conducive to promoting a peaceful resolution through political diplomacy. China is willing to take a responsible attitude and to maintain communications with all sides.
To discuss these sanctions further, we are joined by Dr. Adam Law. He is a political analyst at the University of Nairobi. Dr. Law, thank you for joining us. So this US drafted resolution, it's targeting key areas of the economy of the DPRK. How badly will this hurt the DPRK?
Obviously, if they were passed, it would hurt the DPRK massively economically, because it's basically trying to target not only the leadership now, but also the general populace, which depends a lot on some of the exports of some of the earnings from the oil product that it seeks. And it looks like the US has adopted a different strategy in which it wants the people of North Korea to feel the pinch and therefore be the ones to rise up against their own leader.
And so we are seeing this vote today. This, of course, hot on the heels of what we saw yesterday at the UN emergency session. Are we likely to see a repeat of what happened Thursday, when majority of the nations basically voted against the United States' move on Jerusalem?
Well, this is less a number in the sense that it is the UN Security Council, but one has to take into account the fact that China and Russia, who hold veto power, are always very reluctant in taking what you can call drastic measures which they are not essentially a part of. And I think that one has to look specifically at China and Russia, and I think that their language so far is that they would rather implement the previous sanctions which have been put in place since 2006 and make sure that they are enacted to the latter, as opposed to bringing new ones.
And having said that, what would have been the best way to handle this situation?
Well, I think that from my perspective is that the best way should have been a more multilateral approach. In this case, you have the US under the leadership of Donald Trump basically deciding that it's time to deal with North Korea once and for all, without first winning the other members who are critical to such a resolution, and therefore maybe a more diplomatic approach as opposed to a more of a carrot and stick approach, the way the US has adopted, would have worked better.
All right. All great insights. Thank you. As always, a pleasure to have you in studio.